Okay. Uh, so what we are going to cover today is still we are in chapter 2, writing a research proposal. So this is the part 2. Okay, last week we have covered part 1, where we have covered several elements. So part 2 we will continue from element 7 to element 11. So today we are going to cover program of work, resource list, expected product, conclusion, and bibliography. Okay. Okay. Now element 7 is program of work. So for the program of work, the first thing that you should do is that you should select a suitable development model for your project. So when I say development model, this is the model that we use in the development, such as the waterfall model, rapid application development, agile, and some other models. Okay, so you need to select a suitable model. Okay, within the model, then you should identify the key tasks based on the model. So basically what I'm going to do today is that I'm going to show an example of selecting a model, and after that we identify the key tasks. Okay, within the program of work also, we need to determine the duration for each task and the tentative time frame of the progress milestone. Here we need to actually reflect our planning in the form of a Gantt chart. Okay, now this is an example of a program of work. So this is using the same case study, which is the virtual lab that we have used in last week's lesson. Okay, now the development model chosen by this particular student is the waterfall development model. So within the waterfall development model, okay, what she did is that she actually lists the main phases of within the waterfall model, which is we have the requirements, design, implementation, testing, and deployment. Okay, now based on her proposal, okay, of the FYP, she detailed out the requirements, design, implementation, testing, and deployment. Okay, for example, okay, for the requirements, she lists 3 tasks, which is conduct interview session with SME. SME for her case is the subject matter expert, because she was developing a virtual lab based on chemistry. So the subject matter expert must be someone who is an expert in that particular field, which is the chemistry. Okay, so you may or may not have such a subject matter expert. Okay, but definitely, okay, if you are to develop any project, basically you must have someone advising you within the domain area. Okay, for example, if you are developing, let's say, a laundry system, just to give a very simple example, definitely you will need to have some interview or some other ways to engage with those who are familiar with that particular area. For example, if the laundry system, you may want to interview someone, for example, a manager of a laundry business, because he or she knows what it's all about. Okay, for example, so this is, for example, one requirement. Another task is to identify the scope and content for the virtual lab. Virtual lab is actually the product of this particular student, because basically he needs to identify what are the things that needs to be included in the requirement. So basically these are the tasks that she thinks that she wants to include within the requirements. Then she identifies defined system requirements, functional constraint, quality, and so on. Okay, this is the first phase. The second phase is the design, whereby she actually identifies 3 tasks, such as design the UML, design the database using ERD, and design the interface. For implementation, she listed 2 tasks, okay, 2 main tasks, such as to develop, the first one is to develop the virtual lab using Adobe Animate CC. Here she actually elaborate a little bit here, which is to create the digital images, animation, and interactivity. The second task is to develop the overall application in PHP, because she was developing this using the PHP language, whereby she elaborated by mentioning this is about writing the code and conducting unit testing. Phase number 4 for her is testing, whereby she listed 2 tasks, which is to conduct system testing, that is number 1, and task number 2 is to conduct user acceptance testing with 30 SPM students. So that's the planning for her, meaning that once the system or the application is ready, the planning was to actually test this with 30 SPM students. Why SPM students? Because based on her context, okay, this is to develop for SPM students taking the chemistry paper at SPM level. Okay, and the last phase is deployment. She was very ambitious, although I mentioned to her that it is sufficient for you to just deploy to a local host, meaning that you run this from your own laptop. But she was very ambitious. She tried to actually, the planning was, she tried to post this, publish the application to a real web hosting. So because of that, she add this one phase, deployment. The task, there are 3 tasks, which is to find a free or cheap web hosting. That's number 1. Number 2, to find a suitable domain name. And number 3 is to deploy Belajar Lab. Belajar Lab is the name of the application that she developed, okay, to a web server. So basically, you can see that this is how, okay, how you actually mention what is your development model. She mentioned here waterfall development model. She identified the main phases, and she listed, okay, she listed several tasks, okay, that are related to each of the phase. So this is how you explain, okay, your development model and also the tasks, okay, within your research proposal. Okay, just a reminder to you that, okay, when I give you this example, please do not copy and paste everything and use this as a template, because this is what she thinks was right for her project. Okay, the same thing may not be right for your project because your project is different. Okay, so you need to take this as an example, not as a template. Okay, so this is the program of work, okay, whereby you include the development model and also the main task. Okay, now within the program of work also, she created a Gantt chart. So now this is an example of a Gantt chart that she has created, and you will notice that she did not use any specific tool to create this, meaning that she's not using Microsoft Project or whatever. So actually what she did was, she actually, I'm not sure how she did it, but she is using like Excel or something, Microsoft Excel, format the cells and so on. And how she actually put everything is that she decided that she wants to represent the duration of FYP1 and FYP2 based on weeks. Okay, you will notice that she actually, there are 3 segments here. The first column is the key task. This is on the left. Okay, on the right, these are the time frame, and you can see that it comprises of FYP1 and FYP2. And within FYP1, she actually highlights from week 1 to week 16, and FYP2 from week 1 to week 16. Okay, what she did was, she actually summarizes, actually she details out more based on what she plans to do in the previous slide. Okay, you can see that there is this requirements, the design. You can see there are subtasks for requirements: write proposal, to defend the proposal, meet stakeholders, which is the SME just now, gather requirements, prioritize requirements, and to document the SRS. So meaning that this is more detail. For the design, there is design architecture, design database, design component, design interface, draw storyboard, because she needs storyboard because she is actually creating animation. So animation is using storyboard, and you can see that there is like a estimation of when and how long she is spending time for each of the tasks. Okay, you can see the horizontal bars, okay, on the right. Okay, this is the design. Okay, if you go further, these are the examples of implementation, testing, and deployment. And you can see that this is the Gantt chart that she created to represent her work plan throughout the 1 year. So what are the things that she plans to do, how long each task she is going to spend, and when is the estimation start, and when it will be completed for each of the tasks. So remember that Gantt chart is a plan. Okay, this is plan. So it is important for you to actually create this program of work. So I'm going to repeat this. First is that you need to choose what development model that is suitable for your project. Now, then once you have done that, based on the development model, you need to identify what are the main phases and what are the general tasks that you want to cover within each phase. So you can see that it is very specific on the context of her project. Okay, remember, you need to be specific on the things that you want to do, not just gives just design, develop, very general. But she is very specific and she say develop what? Develop animation, develop images, add interactivities, and so on. Develop code. Very specific. Okay, when they say that testing, see, user acceptance testing with who? So meaning that this is very specific. Okay, and then you actually create a Gantt chart which is consistent with what you plan to do. So remember, although this is for those who are still in final year project 1, the Gantt chart must comprise from the start until the end, meaning that if this is a FYP, so it must cover FYP1 and FYP2. Okay, you can see that this is very clear. So actually I copy and paste from her proposal into this PowerPoint, and you can see very clearly, okay, what she plans to do. Okay, any question on the program of work? Okay, no question? Okay.
Prof,
Yes?
for the requirement on the interview session with subject matter expert, is it like the client is considered as SME?
Okay. Now, because okay, let me move to this. Okay. Okay, you are referring to this. Okay, so basically because uh, she is develop learning application, there is learning content. So the term that she uses is subject matter expert. Okay, because this is the term that is used at school in education. So meaning that if you say that if you have a teacher who are considered as will advise you on the content of a subject, it is called subject matter expert. Okay, but if for example you are developing a system for a particular company, okay, for a particular company, then the term subject matter expert may not be suitable for you. So maybe you want to say that conduct interview session with the manager, for example, with the manager of the laundry services. So you don't use SME. So you just use with the manager of the laundry services, for example. So meaning that there's no subject matter expert, but this is what we call the stakeholder, the person that who will be giving you the requirements. For example, if you are developing based on specific processes of that particular company, so who will give that to you? So meaning that that person, no need to put in the name, but what is the representation of that company? Is he a manager? So if he's manager of so and so so and so on, so you use that. Okay. But if for example you are developing a project, okay, based on a certain, for example, let's say that I give you another example. I'm going to develop an application to learn Malaysian Sign Language. Okay, Malaysian Sign Language is actually a language for the deaf, orang pekak the deaf people, whereby we use the hands and fingers, symbols using the hands and fingers to communicate with the deaf people. Okay, let's say I want to create an application based on that. So maybe if I may need to conduct some interview or some ways for me to learn about sign language. So maybe I would say this with conduct, if it is an interview, conduct interview session with a sign language expert. We can use a sign language expert. So basically, with what? With whom? The whom depends on your own project. Okay, not necessarily SME. SME is a term used in education. Okay, especially at school level. For someone, a teacher who is an expert in this particular field, they are called subject matter expert, similar to lecturer. For example, uh, if you are learning web application development, ASP.NET, so the subject matter expert for ASP.NET would be Prof. Shamsul Anwar in UniKL. Okay, so basically that is the use of SME. Okay, so am I answering you?
Yes, sir. Very clear. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions on this? Okay. Okay, one thing that I would like to highlight to you, these are some of the common mistakes that I see students do. One thing is that, okay, some students, okay, when they choose the development model, okay, they are very ambitious. Okay, they say that they are using, for example, rapid application development. Okay, the model is rapid application development. But then when I look into their project, so I ask, what tool are you using to develop this? Okay, they say that, okay, we are using PHP. Okay, then I ask, uh, what is the tool for you to develop this rapid application development? Okay, remember, okay, because rapid application development, there is a specific tool. PHP is not a tool, okay, a language that we associate with rapid application development. So meaning that the problem is that there is a mismatch between the technology or the development technology or tool that you propose to use compared to the development model that you choose. There is a mismatch. So it must not be mismatch. It must match. Okay, so you need to understand. So if you choose rapid application development model, there must be a software that allows rapid application development. So PHP is not the answer. Just to share with you. For example, another example, some students choose, okay, we are using agile. Okay, agile model, the agile model, and the specific technique that they are using is Scrum. Then he gave something like this. Then I say that, no, if you are using Scrum, the phases are different, and how you execute a Scrum is different. So basically, there is a mismatch within what was given and what was planned. So basically, what I would advise you is that when you choose a development model, choose wisely so that you understand the model and the process. For example, the Gantt chart here is must fit the model. Okay, if you actually create like agile Scrum using Scrum, the Gantt chart will not be like this. It will be different in terms of what task you do, because there is like a spiral thing. Okay, so basically it's very different. Okay, so these are the things that I would advise you when you choose a developed model. Please choose wisely. Okay, okay, any question on this? Okay, if not, okay, let us go to number 8.
Sir,
Okay,
sorry,
yes,
Prof.
yes.
For the Gantt chart, So how do we like estimate how much time do we have to work on that specific task?
Okay, that is using your knowledge, common sense, and your logical thinking. There's no answer to how long do you need. So basically, what you need to do is that basically, you need to make a very educated guess. It's a guess. Remember, planning is just planning. Okay. Sometimes you cannot fulfill the planning, but you try your best. So educated guess. So meaning that you can see here that you know that the way that you develop things, there is FYP1, FYP2. So by the end of FYP1, you are expected to actually to be able to present the SRS, okay, the software requirements, the test plan, some designs, and you need to start developing the prototype at least to the extent of 30% of the whole of your project. Okay, that is requirements for FAP1. So basically, based on that, you need to actually create a Gantt chart so that by the end of FYP1, okay, you have created the SRS, software requirements specification document. You have created the software testing plan document. You have created the design. So you need to actually create the design, okay, by end of FYP1, because if you only FYP2, you still on the design, you may not have enough time to finish. So try to finish the design, okay, whether it's a database design, is the interface design, okay, if you are using object oriented development, you want to create the UML, okay, unified modeling language, such as the use case and so on, by the end of FYP1. And as for the development itself, the prototype itself, you must actually by end of FYP1, you must achieve at least 30% of the development. So what is 30% to you? So these are the things that, as a rough guide, what you need to put in for FYP1. Okay, remember, because these are the things when you present the report FYP1. So these are the things that the assessors will want to see, okay, what you have achieved and so on. So your planning must be able to actually comply to these requirements. Okay, did I answer you very roughly?
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, any question regarding this program of work?